it's Roger Hamilton with another episode of Entrepreneur TV. And in this episode, I'm going to give you Richard Branson's cash strategy. And I'm going to show you what I did with this strategy after meeting Richard Branson on his Necker Island. But wait, you might be saying, isn't that the same island that was in this article? And is this the same Richard Branson in this article and in this one? And the answer is yes. It's just that there's always a story behind the story. In the midst of all these bad headlines, in the last 6 months, Richard Branson has pulled out a £1.2 billion, that's $1.5 billion rabbit out of the hat to save his airline. And even if you just need 0.0000001% of that right now, which is more like $1,500 instead of 1.5 billion, you can use exactly these same principles. So what happened to Richard? Back in April, Richard Branson was in big trouble. He was appealing to both the UK government and Delta Airlines, who was his partner in Virgin Atlantic, to help him save his airline. Because without the cash he needed, he was going to have to close Virgin Atlantic down. And it led to these headlines. So much for entitled millennials. It's billionaires such as Richard Branson who are begging for loans. And this one, Richard Branson facing backlash over plea for UK bailout of Virgin. Well, with all this bad press, both the UK government and Delta turned him down. And while he's worth $4 billion, he didn't just have $1 billion in cash sitting around. So he had to get creative. So what did he do? Well, the first thing he did is he went to one of his companies, which happens to be riding the space boom, and that's Virgin Galactic. Virgin Galactic had an IPO last November and its share price has been trading sideways. So Richard put a rocket ship up the share price with this PR blitz. First in May, while reporting his first quarter results, which was a $60 million loss, he also announced that he was doing a partnership with NASA. Then he announced a joint venture with Rolls Royce to launch a 2,300 miles an hour superjet that would fly from London to New York in less than 90 minutes. Then he unveiled the interior of his Virgin Galactic spaceship, and he announced he would be flying to space himself by 2021. Wow, you might be thinking, that's a lot of activity for him to be focusing at when it has nothing to do with Virgin Atlantic. But as a result of all this action, Richard was then able to raise $460 million for Virgin Galactic with headlines like this: Virgin Galactic is less risky following a massive share offering. And this, Virgin Galactic stock could surge by more than 50% this year, says UBS. So the net effect of all of this, Virgin Galactic's value went up by 4.4 billion and Richard Branson's share in Virgin Galactic went up by 1.7 billion. Great, you're probably thinking, this means he can now sell his shares and go save Virgin Atlantic. Not so easy, because his shares were part of a lockup for a year after his IPO in November. This means the stock market wasn't actually allowing him to sell his shares. So what did he do? He didn't technically sell his shares, he did this. Richard Branson splits up $1.7 billion stake in Virgin Galactic. He split up the company that owns his shares between himself and Aabar Space. Aabar Space is part of Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund, and he'd been building trust with them for many years. Aabar took on 19% of his shares, leaving him with 81%, and also gave him £200 million. And as a result of this, Virgin Atlantic Airways, the company most responsible for building Branson's global brand, was rescued on the brink of collapse this month with a £1.2 billion, which is $1.6 billion package. Part of that deal included about £200 million that Branson got from diluting his stake in Virgin Galactic. And then with the £200 million of cash he had, he was then able to get that matched by David Kempner, which is a US hedge fund, with another $170 million. That was put in as a long-term loan. And with that $370 million, he was then able to be able to convince the creditors to then also forgive or postpone another $800 million, making an entire £1.2 billion out of nothing that he was then able to use as the rescue package for Virgin Galactic. So the headlines of bankruptcy were actually just all part of this process in what's called a solvent recapitalization. And with that, Virgin Atlantic has been saved. Now, it hasn't been an easy process. 3,500 of the staff at Virgin Atlantic have lost their jobs. Virgin Atlantic has actually lost its main base at Gatwick. But as CEO Shai Weiss says, we have taken painful measures, but we have accomplished what many thought impossible. And as for Richard, as well as saving his airline, he's actually seen the value of his shares in Virgin Galactic go from $900 million up to $1.4 million, making him $500 million. So what did he do that we can all learn from? When I met Richard on Necker Island, he explained the power of trading the future for the present. This is the difference of earnings and capital. Let's say you want to make $1 million of cash from the past. You're going to have to wait for enough years of your present to become the past to make that million. If you're earning $10,000 profit per year, you're going to have to wait 100 years to get to the million. A much faster way to get $1 million of cash is trading it from your future. If you could show your future plan was worth $10 million, someone could come and actually buy 10% of that and give you the $1 million of cash now. That's called capital, not earnings. And that's the basis of capitalism. After my first trip to Necker Island in 2015, I started thinking totally different about my own businesses. I took one of my companies, Entrepreneur Resorts, which was private, and we turned that into a public company through an IPO by 2017. We raised $3 million in the process, and if it wasn't for that $3 million, I couldn't have grown that business to be worth $32 million when it was sold this year. So selling capital in your future is a self-fulfilling prophecy, as you commit to a bigger future with others betting on you and that future as well. But what if you have no money right now? You can still create a vision and capitalize it starting from zero. That's what Richard Branson did with his first Virgin flight, where he started with $0. Have a look at this story, the incredible reason why Richard Branson started Virgin Atlantic. 35 years ago, Richard Branson was stuck on a tarmac trying to leave Puerto Rico for the British Virgin Islands. His flight was grounded and he'd been away from his girlfriend for 3 weeks. Needless to say, he was over it. What do you do in this situation? Branson walked to the back of the plane and asked for a chalkboard and a writing implement. He figured out how much it would cost to charter a plane to BVI and how much it would cost each passenger if the expense was pooled. And then he went for it, walking up and down the aisles of the grounded airplane, selling tickets. On the chalkboard, he wrote $39 one way to BVI. And that was Virgin Atlantic's first flight. I used that story when I was in my early 30s. I just had a major crash in one of my businesses and I was in debt. I didn't want to go get another job, but I also didn't have my next business idea yet. And on top of that, I had a family with bills to pay, so I needed cash now. And while I didn't have money, I did have my relationships and the trust that I had built with the people around me. So I went to a friend who was an investor in the stock market. He had money while I had time and trust. He knew how hard a worker I was and what I'd achieved over the last 10 years. And I said to him, do you believe that I'll be able to make at least $1 million over the next 10 years? And he said, of course you will. And I said, well, if you're willing to bet on me, right now, I need cash. So I'm willing to actually give up part of that future for that cash. If you pay me $100,000 now, I'll give you 10% of everything I earn over the next 10 years. That was me capitalizing my future, even without a business. He went for that deal. I got the $100,000, which gave me the runway to start my next business. And he got a multiple return of his investment over the next 10 years. All the wealthiest people in the world did not get there through selling their time or their services. They got there by selling their capital. That means they're creating a vision. They're then selling a part of that vision. And with the money they're getting, they're using that to then make the vision happen. All the wealthiest people are doing this without exception. Elon Musk only owns 20% of Tesla. The other 80% he's already sold. And with the cash he's got, he's using that to then make that vision come true. In fact, as time goes on, he'll own even less of Tesla, but actually become wealthier. Warren Buffett only owns 18% of Berkshire Hathaway. Jeff Bezos only owns 11% of Amazon. Bill Gates only owns 1% of Microsoft. So if you're struggling for cash right now, instead of just asking, how can I increase my earnings? Ask, how can I capitalize my future? In this crisis, yes, there are many challenges, but there's also this huge opportunity for a new future. So what's your big vision and who is it that trusts you? How can you trade part of that vision and turn that trust into cash? I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give it a like and subscribe for more tips and strategies, because believe me, we're going to be needing them as we go deeper and deeper into this crisis. And if, like Richard Branson, you have a challenge with your cash flow, sometimes the answer isn't where you have the greatest weakness, it's actually where you have the greatest strength. He knows whenever something goes down, something else is going up. When flow is stopping, somewhere else is actually starting, which is why he was able to use Virgin Galactic to save Virgin Atlantic. Don't focus at just solving the problem, focus at finding the opportunity. And as Richard says, if you don't succeed at first, there's no need for the F word, as in failure. Pick yourself up and try again. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.